lost while you travel? Have you ever wandered around in a foreign country without the internet? Have you ever ordered a basil pasta which is extraordinarily expensive yet disgusting? My answers to the questions above is yes. It all happened last September during my trip to London. My trip was supposed to be a relaxing journey to escape away from exhausting everyday life. However, as soon as we entered the bustling city of London, my trip has transformed into a hectic journey. It was last September 2023, and I was on my way planning my trip to London. This trip was particularly important for me because of several different reasons. First, it has always been my dream to travel to London and be surrounded by the exotic scenery of Europe. But more importantly, it was my first time planning my trip entirely on my own. For the past trips, my parents usually held the power to make decisions, and the only mission for me was just to sit and relax. But this time, my parents and I thought that I was old and mature enough to make plans and organize a trip by myself. So I was given a budget, and I started planning with excitement. So I started off by booking flights, hotels, and other activities. So I initially felt lost, but I got used to it, and I was finally ready for the trip. As you can see over here, my plans were very detailed, organized, and probably practical. My first hardship started as soon as we entered the busy airport of London. So the SIM card that you need to call, send messages, or connect your phone to the internet was not working. This was pretty much of a devastating situation because internet is actually a lifeline when you're traveling to a foreign country. So I felt terrified and lost and felt like my plan has failed entirely. So the technological problem was not under my control, and it was the first hurdle that I experienced. Luckily, I found a service center near the airport and we got it fixed. My hectic journey continued the next day. We were exhausted from walking more than 20,000 steps a day, and we booked a restaurant which was famous for Italian food. And we opened up the menu, but what a surprise! The menu was written in Italian, and for your information, I am not an expert in Italian. So we just randomly ordered some food which seemed like the most popular dishes. However, the result was devastating. The pizza was burned, and the pasta was too cheesy and salty. To make the matters worse, it was raining outside, and on top of that, I had mistaken the bus stop, and we arrived at the wrong bus stop, and we walked back home miserably. Overall, my trip to London was filled with mistakes. Although I cannot list all of my mistakes right now, it was crazier than you imagine. Some are caused by my carelessness, but some just happened. They were not under my control. Although I enjoyed my trip pretty much, I still regret spending too much time worrying instead of enjoying it. After the trip, I came to a realization that life is like traveling. No matter how detailed and organized your plans are, your trip will never go as planned. Life is also unpredictable. You are always vulnerable to unforeseen consequences. This unpredictability of life is what makes your lives more scarier, but at the same time, it's what makes your lives more beautiful. I often put myself under a huge stress because of my perfectionism. The perfection I pursue cannot be achieved or can only be achieved through great difficulty. Any small disruption to my plan will ruin my whole day. For example, I do not accept any flaws in my work, grade, behavior, etc. As a result, I became highly self-critical, and I often experienced dissatisfaction toward myself and toward the others. Anything off the plan will discourage me from retrying. Even when nothing happens, I still live under an anxiety of getting pushed down or experiencing failure. As a result, I developed a habit of procrastinating to shun away from the problems that I need to face. So I'm a serious procrastinator and a perfectionist at the same time. And this vicious cycle goes over and over again. Because of my perfectionist tendency, I often lose some precious opportunities given to me even before I try. For several years, I used to believe that perfect plans is always good, and living according to that plan will eventually put you at the destination that you aspire. However, I learned through several mistakes and experiences that perfection is not only impossible, but it's also very dangerous. The perfection was not something to admire. Instead, it was the fear of making mistakes, fear of disappointing others, and fear of failure. Life is filled with surprises, and this unexpected aspect of life is what makes your lives more beautiful, but at the same time, it is what people fear the most. I think the most important thing in your life is resilience, which means the capability to withstand or recover from your past mistakes. I see many people devoting a lot of their physical and emotional energy to reach the highest point in their life, like getting into the prestigious university, looking attractive, or pursuing a good career. Despite their efforts, however, people sometimes face failures. And these failures are sometimes stoppable, but sometimes unstoppable. When they experience this failure, they just collapse. And perhaps I used to be one of the students who struggled with this belief. But my trip to London has taught me that life will never go as planned. So the only way to fight against your hardship is to embrace your imperfection. So next time you face your hardship, consider them as a surprise. Thank you.